Archer Wallace, 43, worked as a maintenance supervisor at Lincoln Middle School in Columbus, Ohio. Most people saw nothing more than a quiet man with worn work boots and an old Ford F-150. They believed his wife, Sophia, had outgrown him years ago. On their anniversary afternoon, Archer and his 10-year-old son, Noah, carried cupcakes and flowers into Hawthorne Capital Advisors. What they didn't know was that one strange sound behind Sophia's office door would expose far more than an affair. Archer pressed his palm against the glass as sharp, metallic knocking echoed from inside, followed by a whisper that stopped his heartbeat. If you're watching from somewhere in the world today, leave your country and your local time in the comments. I always enjoy seeing where these stories reach. And if you love slow-burning mysteries, family drama, and unexpected twists, consider subscribing before we continue. The truth behind that office door is only beginning. The elevator doors slid open onto the 12th floor with a quiet chime that seemed too gentle for the tension waiting outside. Archer Wallace stepped into the executive hallway carrying a bouquet of white lilies wrapped in brown paper. Beside him, Noah hugged a bakery box decorated with blue ribbons and tiny silver stars. The little boy had insisted on choosing the cupcakes himself before school that morning. Their mom's favorite, he had said. The hallway smelled of polished wood, expensive perfume, and fresh coffee. Sunlight spilled through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Columbus, painting long rectangles across the marble floor. It should have felt welcoming. Instead, Archer noticed silence. Not ordinary office silence. The kind of silence people create when they stop talking because someone unexpected has arrived. A receptionist near the elevators looked up from her computer. Her smile appeared for less than a second, then it disappeared. "Oh, Mr. Wallace." She stood too quickly. "I wasn't expecting visitors today." Archer answered with the same calm voice he used when nervous students locked themselves inside school bathrooms. "We're just here to surprise Sophia." Noah lifted the cupcake box proudly. "It's their anniversary." The receptionist swallowed. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard without pressing anything. I'll call upstairs." She picked up the phone. Her voice became unusually quiet. Within less than a minute, another woman hurried down the hallway. Emily Carter, Sophia's executive assistant. 31 years old, always organized, always smiling. Today, she looked neither. Her hair seemed rushed into place, and one side of her blazer wasn't buttoned correctly. She stopped several feet away from Archer. "Archer!" She forced a smile. "This is unexpected." "It was supposed to be." Noah grinned. "We brought cupcakes." Emily's eyes dropped to the bakery box before immediately lifting toward Sophia's office corridor. Her smile faded. "I'm afraid Sophia is busy." "Busy?" "Important client meeting." Archer nodded politely. "We'll only need 2 minutes." "I'm sorry." "She can't be interrupted." Her answer came too quickly, almost rehearsed. Noah looked confused. "But Mom always interrupts meetings for me." Emily laughed softly. The laugh sounded empty. "This one's different." Archer said nothing. Instead, his attention drifted farther down the hallway. Sophia's office door remained closed. A strip of warm light glowed beneath it. The electronic calendar mounted beside the entrance displayed only 3 words. Conference call. 2:00 p.m. No guests listed, no executive meeting, no board session, just a conference call. Then he heard it. Clank. A dull metallic knock, soft but unmistakable. It came from somewhere inside the office. Emily froze. The receptionist looked down at her desk. Noah tilted his head. "Dad," he whispered. "What was that?" Archer didn't answer immediately. His expression never changed. Years ago, before he traded computer systems for leaking pipes and broken lockers, Archer had learned that people revealed themselves most clearly when they believed nobody was watching. He simply listened. The sound disappeared. For several seconds, nothing moved. Then came another noise. A low scrape, metal against metal, almost like heavy equipment shifting behind a wall. Emily stepped slightly into Archer's path. "Sophia will come see you later." "We can wait." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The silence stretched. Noah reached into the cupcake box. "I hope the frosting doesn't melt." His innocent voice echoed through the hallway. No one smiled. Archer noticed Emily rubbing her palms together. Sweat, despite the cool air conditioning. Her breathing had become uneven. She kept glancing toward the office every few seconds. Not toward Archer, toward the door, as if she feared something inside might happen before Archer left. Then came another sound. Thud. This one louder. Something heavy striking steel. The receptionist nearly jumped. Noah stared down the hallway. "Dad, I think Mom dropped something." Maybe, maybe not. Archer slowly walked toward Sophia's office. No hurry, no anger. Just steady footsteps across polished marble. Emily followed immediately. "You shouldn't go down there. I'm only checking if she's okay." "I already told you she's busy." He stopped outside the office. The frosted glass concealed everything except moving shadows. Two shapes, not one taller, one shorter. They shifted suddenly, then became still. Archer's eyes rested on the silver handle. Unlocked, locked impossible to tell. He looked toward the digital calendar again. Conference call. Yet there was no speakerphone voice, no presentation screen, no keyboard clicking. Only silence. Then, whispering. Too faint to understand. Noah moved closer. His small hand grabbed Archer's sleeve. "Dad, why does Mom sound scared?" The question lingered in the hallway. Emily answered before Archer could. "She isn't scared." "Then why is she whispering?" Emily had no answer. She simply folded her arms. Archer looked at her calmly. "Is there a spare key?" Her eyes widened. "For what?" "If she's okay, we'll leave flowers and cupcakes." "I can't give you a key." "Company policy." "Yes. You have one, though." Emily hesitated. Only for a second. Long enough, Archer noticed. Her badge, clipped to her waistband, carried a tiny silver key, the same style used for executive offices. He said nothing. The metallic sound returned, clank. This time followed by a muffled voice, then sudden silence. Every instinct Archer possessed told him something inside that office did not belong in a conference call. He slowly stepped closer, until only inches separated him from the glass. His reflection stared back. Simple blue work shirt, calloused hands. Gray beginning to spread through dark hair, the face everyone underestimated. He gently placed one hand against the cool glass. No movement, no voices, nothing. Then a whisper, barely audible. "So, did he hear that?" Archer's eyes narrowed. His heartbeat slowed instead of speeding up. He leaned forward, very slowly, until his ear touched the office door. Behind it, something metallic shifted one more time, and someone held their breath. The whisper vanished. For several long seconds, Archer Wallace heard nothing except the hum of the building's ventilation system and the distant ringing of office phones somewhere beyond the executive floor. His ear remained against the cool glass. Noah stood quietly beside him, holding the bakery box against his chest. Emily Carter shifted nervously behind them. "Mr. Wallace," she said softly, "please step away from the door." Archer didn't answer. His eyes focused on the frosted glass where vague shadows barely moved. One shadow, then another. Someone inside was standing perfectly still, waiting. The silence stretched until a soft click echoed from the other side. The office handle turned. The door opened only a few inches before stopping. Sophia Wallace appeared in the narrow gap. Her smile arrived too late. It looked assembled rather than genuine. Archer. Her voice carried surprise, but not happiness. "What are you doing here?" Noah immediately brightened. "Happy anniversary, Mom." He lifted the cupcakes high enough for her to see. For just a moment, something flickered across Sophia's face. Guilt, fear, or perhaps irritation. It disappeared before Archer could decide. Sophia opened the door a little wider, but positioned herself carefully so that most of the office remained hidden behind her shoulders. "You should have called." It was supposed to be a surprise. Archer held out the flowers. She accepted them awkwardly. The stems trembled slightly in her hand. Behind her, Archer caught the faint scent of expensive cologne. Not hers. Male, fresh, sharp. He knew immediately that someone else remained inside. Sophia stepped backward. "Come in for a minute." Her invitation sounded forced. The office looked immaculate at first glance. Large windows overlooked downtown Columbus. Awards covered one wall. A polished walnut desk occupied the center of the room. Everything seemed normal. Almost. Then Archer noticed the second coffee cup. Still warm. Steam floated upward. Across the desk sat an expensive leather chair that had clearly been occupied moments earlier. The cushion remained compressed. Sophia quickly moved between Archer and the chair. "Noah, look at these flowers." The distraction felt obvious. Noah smiled proudly. "I picked white ones because Dad says they're your favorite." Sophia nodded without really listening. Her attention kept drifting toward the far corner of the office. Archer followed her eyes. Near a built-in filing cabinet stood a tall man wearing a charcoal suit. He appeared to be studying documents spread across a conference table. He looked up slowly. Ethan Brooks, Vice President of Operations. Archer recognized him from company newsletters Sophia had once left around the house. Ethan offered a professional smile. "I didn't realize today was your anniversary." Neither did Archer, because according to Sophia, she had planned to spend the entire afternoon on conference calls. Instead, she stood beside another executive in a locked office, with fresh coffee and closed blinds. Sophia cleared her throat. Ethan needed help reviewing some numbers. Archer nodded politely. "I see." No accusation. No raised voice. His calm seemed to unsettle Ethan more than anger would have. The executive adjusted his tie unnecessarily. His jacket remained draped over the back of another chair. The sleeves had been rolled up, not exactly business formal. Archer's attention drifted lower. Sophia's left hand rested against the flowers. Her wedding ring was missing. The pale circle on her finger remained, fresh, as though she had removed it only minutes ago. Noah noticed nothing. He wandered toward the windows. "Dad, look how tiny the cars are." Archer smiled gently. "They do look small." Behind him, Ethan quietly picked up his jacket. His movements seemed hurried, too hurried, then the metallic sound returned, clank. Everyone froze. The noise came from somewhere behind the filing cabinets. Sophia immediately started talking louder. "So, how's school going, Noah?" The little boy turned. "It's summer vacation." "Oh." She forced another smile. "Right." The room fell silent again. Archer's eyes moved toward the back wall. A decorative wooden panel covered nearly the entire section behind the cabinets. Nothing unusual, except for one detail, near the floor, almost hidden by a potted plant. A tiny red light blinked once, then disappeared. Archer had seen similar indicator lights years ago. Network equipment, backup storage, power systems. He said nothing. Ethan stepped casually in front of the cabinet, almost as if protecting it. Sophia laughed too loudly at something Noah said. The laughter echoed unnaturally across the office. Another sound, this time softer. metal scraping. From inside the wall, Emily, still standing outside the office, looked as though she wanted to disappear completely. Archer watched everyone's reactions instead of the cabinet itself. Sophia blinked rapidly. Ethan folded his arms. Neither looked surprised, only worried that someone else had noticed. Noah looked confused. "Mom, what is it, sweetheart?" "Is somebody fixing your office?" Sophia answered too quickly. "Just maintenance." Archer nearly smiled. Maintenance? He had worked maintenance for almost 8 years. No repair crew left hidden machinery knocking inside executive walls during business hours. No company repair generated whispered conversations and locked doors. The explanation made no sense. Noah carefully placed the cupcake box onto Sophia's desk. "I picked chocolate because you like chocolate." For the first time since Archer arrived, Sophia's expression softened. She kissed Noah's forehead. "Thank you." Then she looked toward Archer. "You really should go." The sentence landed harder than she intended. Archer simply nodded. "We don't want to interrupt." He turned toward the exit. Halfway across the room, something caught his attention. A small section of wooden trim near the cabinet had shifted slightly away from the wall. Barely half an inch, enough to expose darkness behind it. And for just a fraction of a second, the tiny red light blinked again. Archer slowed. Only one step. His years in cybersecurity whispered old instincts he thought he had buried forever. Hidden hardware, restricted access, unusual power sounds, and executives acting terrified over a family visit. Pieces that did not belong together, not yet, but they soon would. He reached the doorway. Noah waved happily. "Bye, Mom." Sophia waved back. Her smile vanished the instant Noah looked away. Archer glanced one final time toward the cabinet. The metallic sound echoed again, very faint, almost like a hard drive struggling to spin. He said nothing. He simply memorized everything he had seen. Then he walked into the hallway, leaving the office behind. The door closed softly. A second later, he heard the lock engage from inside. The elevator ride down lasted less than a minute. To Noah, it felt ordinary. To Archer Wallace, it felt unusually quiet. The little boy balanced the cupcake box carefully with both hands while staring at the changing floor numbers above the doors. "I think Mom liked the flowers." Archer looked down at his son and forced a small smile. "I think she did." Noah nodded, satisfied. Children accepted simple answers. Adults rarely could. The lobby of Hawthorne Capitol buzzed with late-afternoon movement. Executives crossed polished floors with coffee cups and laptops while security guards greeted visitors near the revolving entrance. No one noticed Archer stop beside a large marble column. He looked back toward the elevators. Nothing. No one followed. He reached into the chest pocket of his faded blue work shirt. His fingers brushed against something no one at Hawthorne would ever expect him to carry. A miniature recording camera. Small, black, almost invisible against the fabric. Years ago, during his cybersecurity career, Archer had occasionally worn similar devices during internal security audits. The habit had never completely disappeared. He pressed one button. The tiny indicator light flashed once. Recording, not because he expected betrayal, because old instincts had taught him that memory failed under stress. Evidence did not. "Dad?" Noah tugged gently on his sleeve. "Can we wait for Mom downstairs?" Archer looked toward the lobby windows where sunlight reflected from nearby buildings. "I think she has a lot of work today." "Oh." The disappointment in Noah's voice lasted only seconds before he noticed a fountain outside. Children healed faster than adults. Archer envied that. The revolving doors opened behind them. Someone walked into the lobby. Expensive leather shoes, tailored charcoal suit, confident stride, Ethan Brooks. The executive paused when he spotted Archer, only for a fraction of a second. Then the practiced corporate smile returned. "Mr. Wallace." Archer turned calmly. "Mr. Brooks. I didn't get the chance to introduce myself properly." He extended his hand. Archer accepted it. The handshake lasted barely 2 seconds. Firm, dry, confident, yet Ethan withdrew first. "You have a wonderful family." "So I've always believed." The answer carried no emotion, no accusation, no hidden threat, just a simple statement. For reasons Archer could not explain, Ethan seemed uncomfortable. His gaze drifted toward Noah, then toward the exit, almost as if he wanted the conversation over. "I should get back upstairs." "I'm sure you should." Again, Archer offered nothing more. No challenge, no jealousy, no questions. Silence often forced people to reveal more than arguments ever could. Ethan nodded awkwardly before disappearing into the elevator. The doors closed. Noah looked up. "Who's that?" "Someone from Mom's office." He seemed nervous. Archer looked at the elevator display. So did I. But only inside. Outside, his face remained unchanged. They walked toward the parking garage beneath the building. The old Ford F-150 waited in its usual spot between luxury SUVs and imported sedans that cost more than Archer earned in a year. He opened the passenger door for Noah. The little boy climbed inside, then suddenly stopped. "Dad?" "What is it?" "I forgot." "The cupcakes." Archer looked toward the bakery box still sitting on the back seat. Noah's face fell. "We left Mom's cupcakes upstairs." For the first time all afternoon, Archer hesitated. Returning would be awkward. Walking away would disappoint Noah. He looked toward the elevator entrance, then back toward his son. "We'll take them back." Noah smiled instantly. They rode the elevator once more. The receptionist looked surprised to see them again. "You forgot something." "Noah wants to leave the cupcakes." Emily Carter emerged almost immediately from the executive hallway. This time, she looked even more anxious than before. "You really don't have to." "Noah wants his mother to have them." The assistant swallowed. "I can take them." Noah shook his head. "I want to give them to Mom." Emily looked toward Sophia's office, then toward Archer. Her breathing quickened. "I'm sorry." She's still occupied. The hallway behind Emily remained empty. No voices, no movement, no conference call, only silence. Archer's attention drifted once more toward Sophia's office. The decorative cabinet remained exactly where it had been earlier, but something else caught his eye. On the edge of Sophia's desk, barely visible through the frosted glass, sat a large brown envelope stamped with Hawthorne Capital's finance department seal. The corner of a printed payment authorization protruded from inside. Years of reviewing security documents had trained Archer's eyes to notice details other people ignored. Across the exposed page, one line remained visible: Vendor Authorization. The company name beneath it was partially hidden. Only the final letters remained readable. Ridge Solutions, LLC. Something about it bothered him. He couldn't explain why. Not yet. Then came the sound again. Clank. Metal striking metal. This time followed by a low electronic hum. Emily stiffened. The receptionist looked away. Even Noah frowned. "Dad, that's the same noise." Archer nodded once. "It is." Emily forced another smile. "Maintenance." Noah laughed softly. "My dad does maintenance." The hallway became painfully quiet. Emily had no reply. Archer reached into the bakery box and lifted one cupcake. Blue frosting. Silver sugar stars. He handed it to Emily. "Could you make sure Sophia gets at least one?" Emily accepted it carefully. Her fingers shook. "I will." Archer smiled politely. "Thank you." He turned to leave. Halfway down the corridor, Noah accidentally bumped the side of the marble wall. The cupcake box slipped from his hands. It hit the floor. The lid burst open. Chocolate frosting splattered across polished marble. Paper wrappers scattered in every direction. Noah's eyes widened. "I'm sorry." He knelt immediately to gather the mess. Archer crouched beside him. While collecting the crushed box, his eyes stopped on something lying just beneath a nearby chair. A folded payment receipt. Probably blown there by the building's air conditioning. The logo matched the document he had glimpsed through Sophia's office window. Without changing expression, Archer picked it up together with the cupcake wrappers. The paper remained folded. No one noticed. Emily hurried over carrying napkins. "It's okay. We'll clean it." Archer handed Noah the empty box, then slipped the folded receipt into his own jacket pocket while helping his son stand. The movement took less than 2 seconds. Invisible. Years of security work had taught him one lesson above all others. Never touch evidence unless you can explain why. This wasn't evidence. Not yet, just another strange detail in an afternoon filled with impossible coincidences. As Archer and Noah stepped back into the elevator for the second time, the metallic knocking echoed faintly from somewhere above. The doors slid shut. Neither father nor son saw Emily Carter standing alone in the hallway staring at the closed elevator with fear written across her face. The drive home took nearly 30 minutes. Rush hour traffic crawled through downtown Columbus before spilling onto Interstate 670, but Archer Wallace barely noticed the brake lights stretching ahead of him. His attention remained on the folded document resting inside the center console. He had not opened it. Not yet. Noah sat quietly beside him, watching rain clouds gather above the skyline. The little boy had always been talkative. Today was different. He stared through the passenger window until the silence finally became too heavy. "Dad," Archer glanced over. "What is it? Is Mom mad at us?" The question arrived so softly that Archer almost wished he had not heard it. He kept both hands on the steering wheel. "I don't think she's mad." "Then why didn't she hug us?" Archer looked back at the road. Children noticed everything adults tried to hide. Sometimes grown-ups get busy. Noah accepted the answer for a moment. Then another question came. "Who was that man?" "Ethan." "Yeah, he works with your mother." Noah nodded slowly. He didn't smile with his eyes. Archer said nothing. The observation lingered in the truck long after the conversation ended. They reached home just before 5 o'clock. The modest 2-story house sat on a quiet street lined with maple trees. Nothing about it suggested wealth. Nothing about Archer suggested the career he had left behind years earlier. Inside, Noah disappeared upstairs to change clothes while Archer placed the flowers Sophia had never really admired into a glass vase. The living room felt strangely empty. He walked toward the kitchen, then reached into the console and unfolded the paper. Vendor authorization. The heading appeared ordinary. The company logo belonged to Hawthorne Capital. The payment amount did not. $482,000. Authorized vendor Northbridge Solutions, LLC. The signature line had already been approved. Sophia Wallace. Archer read the page twice, then a third time. He searched his memory. Northbridge Solutions. The name sounded familiar, too familiar. Not because he knew the company, because shell companies often used generic geographic names. North, bridge, river, stone. Simple words that blended together. His instincts stirred. Still, instincts proved nothing. Evidence mattered. He reached into a kitchen drawer and retrieved his phone. One contact remained saved despite years without conversation. Olivia Harper, former colleague, forensic accountant, one of the smartest financial investigators Archer had ever known. He hesitated before pressing call. The line rang twice, then answered. "Archer." The voice carried genuine surprise. "I thought you disappeared." "I almost did." She laughed quietly. "What happened?" Archer looked toward the staircase to make sure Noah remained upstairs. "I need an opinion. About a payment authorization." Her tone immediately changed. "Send it." Within seconds, Archer photographed the document and transmitted the image. The silence lasted almost a minute. Finally, Olivia spoke again. "Where did you get this?" "That's not important." "It is if you're standing in the middle of something dangerous." Archer remained calm. "Tell me what you see." Paper shuffled on the other end, then keyboard clicks, fast, methodical. "I've heard of Northbridge Solutions." "So it exists." "Maybe. That's not an answer." "It exists on paper." Another pause. "I can't find employees. No website, no contracts. No tax filings newer than 3 years." Archer leaned against the kitchen counter. "What does that mean?" "It could be inactive. It could be legitimate. It could also be a shell company." The words settled into the room like cold air. Archer closed his eyes briefly. He remembered the hidden cabinet, the strange metallic knocking, Sophia's missing wedding ring, Ethan Brooks standing in her office, the blinking red light. Pieces, still disconnected, but no longer random. Olivia continued, "How much was the authorization?" $482,000. Another silence, longer this time. "Archer?" "Yes. If this payment went through a shell company, somebody may be laundering corporate money." He stared at the document. "What should I do? Nothing emotional." The answer came instantly. No confrontation. No accusations. No social media. No police. Not yet. Archer almost smiled. She sounded exactly the same as years ago. Facts first, conclusions later. "I need more." "So do I." Olivia typed again. "I'll run deeper searches tonight. Use public databases only." "I know." "If this company is fake, there will be patterns." "What kind?" "Repeated addresses. Shared directors. Empty tax filings. Inactive registrations. Digital trails." Archer looked through the kitchen window. The first raindrops struck the backyard deck. Noah appeared on the staircase carrying a basketball. "Dad?" "I'm going outside." Archer covered the phone. 5 minutes. The boy nodded and disappeared again. Olivia lowered her voice. "One more thing." "I'm listening." "If this involves executives, don't assume it's only about an affair." "What do you mean?" "Financial crimes create strange behavior. Locked rooms. Private servers. Hidden documents. People panic over witnesses." Archer's thoughts returned immediately to the metallic knocking behind Sophia's office wall. He had spent years securing data centers, backup drives, cooling systems, network storage. Many sounded exactly like what he had heard. He suddenly realized something. The sound had repeated every few minutes. Mechanical, rhythmic, almost like an aging hard drive struggling under heavy load. His heartbeat remained steady. His mind accelerated. Olivia interrupted his thoughts. "Archer?" "Yes?" "Promise me something." "What?" "Don't go back there tonight." "Why?" "If you're right, whoever's involved may already know you noticed something." Archer glanced toward the front window. The neighborhood remained quiet. Children rode bicycles through puddles. A mail truck passed slowly. Everything appeared normal. Yet a strange feeling settled into his chest. The feeling that someone else's secret had just brushed against his own life. "I'll be careful." "You'd better be." The call ended. Archer placed the phone on the counter and looked once more at the payment authorization. $500,000. One hidden company, one locked office, one mysterious executive. one frightened assistant, and one metallic sound inside a wall that should have contained nothing at all. Upstairs, Noah laughed as his basketball bounced across the bedroom floor. The ordinary sound reminded Archer exactly what was at stake. This was no longer about suspicion. It was about protecting the only person in the house who still believed adults always told the truth. Archer folded the document carefully and locked it inside an old metal toolbox in the garage. As he closed the lid, his phone vibrated. A new message from Olivia appeared. "Don't delete anything. Back up your own devices tonight." Archer read it twice. Then he looked toward the darkening sky above Columbus. For the first time that day, he realized the anniversary surprise had ended hours ago. The investigation had just begun. Rain covered Columbus long after sunset. Water rolled down the kitchen windows in thin silver lines while Archer Wallace stood alone beside the sink staring into the darkness outside. The house was unusually quiet. Noah had fallen asleep early after an emotional afternoon, his bedroom door slightly open upstairs. The only sounds inside the house came from the ticking wall clock and the distant hum of the refrigerator. Archer preferred silence. Silence allowed details to surface. He replayed every moment from Hawthorne Capitol in his mind. Sophia's forced smile, Ethan Brooks' nervous handshake, Emily Carter's shaking hands, the blinking red light behind the cabinet, the metallic knocking, the vendor authorization. Each memory fit together like pieces of a puzzle that refused to show the full picture. Headlights suddenly swept across the front yard. A luxury sedan stopped in the driveway. Sophia was home. Archer glanced at the clock. 9:42 p.m., nearly 5 hours after they had left her office. He heard the front door unlock. Sophia entered carrying a leather briefcase and 2 shopping bags. Her hair looked freshly brushed. Her makeup had been touched up. She paused when she saw Archer waiting in the kitchen. "I didn't know you were awake. I couldn't sleep." She placed the bags on the counter. "Tough day." "So it seems." Neither of them moved. Neither smiled. The distance between them felt much larger than the width of the kitchen island. Sophia finally looked toward the staircase. "Is Noah asleep? He waited for you." Her shoulders lowered slightly. "I'm sorry. I had meetings." Archer nodded once. He was disappointed. "I know." She removed her jacket and hung it carefully over a chair. The movement looked practiced, controlled, almost rehearsed. Then Archer noticed something strange. Her laptop bag was missing. Sophia never traveled without it. For years, she had carried the same black leather case everywhere. Today, it was gone. "You left your computer at work." She froze for less than a second. "I had Ite updating it." The answer came too quickly. Archer simply poured another cup of coffee. He offered one to Sophia. She declined. Instead, she reached into one shopping bag and removed a bottle of expensive mineral water. Not unusual, but her hands trembled slightly while twisting the cap. Archer watched without staring. Years ago, he had learned that people often betrayed themselves through routine movements. Sophia took 3 quick drinks, then looked toward the living room. "I'm exhausted." "I'm sure." She frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means you've had a long day." Again, he offered no accusation. No anger, no sarcasm, only calm. Oddly, the calm unsettled Sophia more than shouting ever could. She began unpacking papers from her briefcase. One envelope slipped onto the floor. She picked it up almost instantly, too quickly, as though afraid Archer might read it. He looked away intentionally. Giving people privacy often encouraged them to reveal more. Sophia disappeared upstairs to shower. The water began running. Archer remained in the kitchen. He opened a cabinet beneath the sink to retrieve trash bags. Something caught his eye. Behind a stack of cleaning supplies lay a charging cable. Black. compact, not for any phone they owned. He picked it up. Burner phone charger, cheap prepaid model. Noah certainly didn't own one. Neither did Archer. He placed it exactly where he found it. Nothing in the house should move before he understood its importance. Minutes later, Sophia returned wearing gray sweatpants and a white t-shirt. Her hair remained damp. She looked more relaxed, almost relieved. She opened the refrigerator. "We should talk." Archer looked up. "I'm listening." "Today at work," she stopped, searching for words. "I'm under a lot of pressure." "I noticed. It wasn't personal." "I understand. You embarrassed me." The sentence surprised even her. It came out sharper than intended. Archer remained silent. She continued, "My coworkers think I'm unprofessional now. They saw your husband and son bringing flowers. They interrupted an executive meeting." Archer folded his hands together. "Noah wanted to surprise his mother." Sophia sighed. "You don't understand corporate life." Perhaps not. Or perhaps he understood more than she realized. The conversation drifted into silence again. Sophia walked toward the living room. Her phone vibrated. She looked down immediately. The screen illuminated her face. Fear flashed across her expression. Gone almost instantly. She typed a quick reply before placing the phone face down on the coffee table. Archer looked away. Several minutes later, she went upstairs once more. This time, to check on Noah. The phone remained behind, face down, silent. Archer did not touch it. Instead, he quietly reached into his own pocket. His phone still contained the recording function he had activated hours earlier. The entire kitchen conversation had been preserved. Every word, every pause, every contradiction. Not because he wanted leverage, because memories changed. Recordings did not. He stopped the file and saved it under a simple name. June anniversary. Nothing suspicious, nothing dramatic, just another ordinary family recording. Or so it appeared. A floorboard creaked upstairs. Sophia returned, carrying Noah's blanket. He kicked it off. Archer smiled faintly. He always does. For a brief moment, they looked like any married couple sharing quiet domestic routine. Then Sophia's phone vibrated again. This time louder. She rushed toward the coffee table. Too fast. The phone slipped from her fingers and landed screen up on the hardwood floor. The message preview remained visible for barely 2 seconds. Long enough. He noticed too much. No sender name, only a number. Sophia snatched the phone up immediately. Her face had gone pale. "It's work." Archer nodded. "I'm sure it is." She stared at him, trying to read his expression, finding nothing. That frightened her even more. Without another word, she walked upstairs and closed the bedroom door. The lock clicked softly. Archer remained alone in the dark living room. Rain continued tapping against the windows. His coffee had gone cold. His thoughts had not. He replayed the message in his mind. He noticed too much. Not you, not they. He. Someone inside Hawthorne Capital believed Archer Wallace had seen something he should not have seen. The realization settled over him with surprising clarity. The anniversary surprise was no longer the center of the story. Someone else had already started treating him like a problem. And people rarely feared quiet maintenance supervisors unless those men had accidentally walked too close to the truth. Archer Wallace woke before sunrise. The neighborhood was still asleep when he stepped onto the back porch with a mug of black coffee in his hand. A cool breeze moved through the maple trees behind the house, carrying the smell of wet grass from the storm that had passed during the night. Normally, mornings like this calmed him. Today, they did not. His mind kept returning to the blinking red light inside Sophia's office and the message that had flashed across her phone. He noticed too much. The sentence refused to leave his thoughts. Inside the kitchen, the clock read 5:37 a.m. Noah would wake in another hour. Sophia had already left. Her side of the bed had been empty when Archer opened his eyes. No note, no goodbye, only the faint smell of perfume lingering in the hallway. He washed his coffee mug and walked into the small room that had once served as a guest bedroom. Now it contained shelves of old electronics storage boxes and tools collected over years of repairing everything from school boilers to broken laptops. Most people saw junk. Archer saw history. On the highest shelf rested a gray plastic container covered with dust. He climbed onto a step stool and pulled it down carefully. Inside sat pieces of another life. Old security badges, encrypted USB drives, government-issued hardware tokens that no longer worked, several external hard drives, and one battered laptop covered with airline stickers from conferences he had attended more than a decade earlier. He stared at it for a long moment. Sophia used to laugh whenever she saw that computer. "You left the real world years ago." She had said those words often. To her, Archer had become the quiet maintenance man fixing lockers and replacing ceiling tiles. She had never understood why he walked away from cybersecurity. Neither had most people. The truth had always been simple: 3 consecutive years of 70-hour work weeks. Emergency calls at midnight. Corporate espionage investigations. One panic attack that nearly ended with his car wrapped around a highway guardrail. He had resigned 2 weeks later. Money mattered less than coming home alive. The maintenance job paid less than half his previous salary, but it let him eat dinner with Noah. It let him sleep. It gave him peace. Or at least it had. He plugged the old laptop into the wall. The screen remained black for several seconds before finally glowing to life. Its operating system was outdated, but Archer had maintained it carefully over the years. He connected a portable drive and began copying files from old archives. Networking utilities. Metadata readers. Traffic analysis software. Nothing illegal. Nothing sophisticated by modern standards, just reliable tools built for finding patterns hidden beneath ordinary activity. The process took 20 minutes. While the software loaded, Archer opened his own home router dashboard. Most people never logged into their routers. Archer had always done it once a month. Habit. He reviewed connected devices. Television, game console, tablet, kitchen speaker, Sophia's phone, Sophia's laptop, his own phone, Noah's tablet. Then another device appeared. Unknown device, connected repeatedly over the past 4 months, only after midnight. The MAC address belonged to no manufacturer Archer recognized. He frowned. Someone using a randomized network identity. Interesting. He exported the connection logs. The unknown device had uploaded data almost every Tuesday and Thursday between 12:30 a.m. and 2:00 a.m., always from inside the house. Always after Noah was asleep. Always while Archer believed Sophia was working late downstairs. His heartbeat remained steady. The pattern mattered more than the emotion. He opened another utility and examined DNS records preserved inside the router history. Several encrypted cloud storage services appeared. One repeated dozens of times. Private enterprise storage, commercial account, high-volume transfers, not family photos, not streaming video, large compressed archives. Archer leaned back in his chair. Someone inside the house had been uploading enormous amounts of encrypted data for months. His phone vibrated. A message from Olivia Harper. Found something. Call when free. He pressed the number immediately. Olivia answered without greeting. I checked Northbridge Solutions. And it exists. I already knew that. You didn't know the address. She paused. The registered office is a mailbox store in Delaware. Archer closed his eyes. A mailbox. No employees. No physical operations. No contracts I can verify. Anything else? The listed manager resigned 3 years ago. So who owns it now? I can't tell. Another pause followed. Then Olivia spoke more quietly. I also found 3 payments from Hawthorne Capital over the last 18 months. Archer looked at the vendor authorization beside the keyboard. How much? Just over $800,000. The number hung in the room. Too large to ignore, too organized to dismiss. Archer stood and walked toward the window. Outside, Noah chased a squirrel across the backyard before the animal disappeared into a tree. For one peaceful moment, life looked perfectly ordinary. Olivia interrupted his thoughts. There's more. I'm listening. The payment approvals all came through Sophia's department. Archer remained silent. He refused to jump ahead of the facts. Affairs were emotional. Financial crimes were mathematical. Numbers rarely lied. Olivia continued. I found another company. Name, Lake Horizon Consulting. Real, another mailbox. Same registered agent. Archer looked back toward the computer. 2 shell companies. Repeated payments, encrypted uploads, hidden hardware, a frightened assistant, an executive inside a locked office. The pieces were beginning to align. His software finished loading. One notification appeared. Archived network metadata imported successfully. He opened the analysis window and entered the cloud addresses recovered from his router logs. The program generated connection histories, transfer sizes, upload times, origin devices. One account identifier appeared repeatedly. SW Ops Alpha. Corporate naming convention. Not personal. Business infrastructure. His attention sharpened. The account owner field remained encrypted. But one folder name was still visible. Exit Strategy Archer read the words twice, then a third time. Inside were dozens of compressed uploads. Dates stretching back nearly 6 months. Most were inaccessible. One metadata record remained visible. Financial Archive, Q4, confidential. He copied every log onto an external drive without opening the files. Experience had taught him never to alter evidence unnecessarily. Document first, analyze later. Downstairs, Noah called from the kitchen. Dad, I made toast. Archer closed the laptop. His expression softened immediately. I'll be right there. He placed the external drive into the old metal toolbox in the garage beside the vendor authorization. Then he locked it. As he returned inside, his phone vibrated once more. Another message from Olivia. Only 6 words. Don't trust anyone inside Hawthorne. Archer slipped the phone back into his pocket. The investigation had already grown larger than a broken marriage, and somewhere behind expensive office walls someone was already preparing an exit. The envelope arrived on a Thursday afternoon. Archer Wallace found it tucked between utility bills and grocery coupons inside the black mailbox at the end of the driveway. The return address belonged to a law office in downtown Columbus. He already knew it was not good news. The heavy paper confirmed his suspicion. Petition for dissolution of marriage. He stood motionless beneath the shade of an old maple tree while neighborhood children rode bicycles past the house. A dog barked somewhere down the street. Lawn sprinklers clicked rhythmically across fresh-cut grass. Life continued as though nothing had happened. Archer read every page carefully before folding the packet back into its envelope. There were no tears, no anger, only a growing certainty that the afternoon at Hawthorne Capital had been the beginning of something far larger than betrayal. Noah burst through the front door carrying his backpack. Dad, Coach says I hit the farthest ball today. Archer smiled. That's great. The boy stopped when he noticed the envelope. What's that? Paperwork. From work? In a way. Noah accepted the answer and disappeared upstairs to change clothes. Archer waited until he heard the bedroom door close before opening the documents again. Sophia was requesting primary custody. The petition claimed that Archer had become emotionally unstable. It alleged jealousy, obsessive behavior, unpredictable mood swings. One sentence stood out above the others. Petitioner believes respondent's conduct creates an unhealthy emotional environment for the minor child. Archer read the line twice. Then he quietly placed the papers on the dining room table. For 10 years, Noah had never once gone to bed without Archer checking on him. For 10 years, every parent-teacher conference, baseball practice, school concert, dentist appointment, and science fair had included Archer. Now, a legal document suggested he was a danger to his own son. His phone vibrated. "Sophia," he answered calmly. "Hello?" "I assume you received the papers." "I did." Silence lingered between them. Finally, Sophia spoke again. "It doesn't have to be ugly. It already is. You forced this." "I surprised my wife with flowers." "You embarrassed me." Archer looked through the kitchen window towards Noah, throwing a baseball against the backyard fence. "I embarrassed you. You made a scene at work. I carried cupcakes." Sophia exhaled sharply. "You don't understand how executive offices operate." Perhaps she was right. Or perhaps she underestimated how much Archer understood. "I've hired an attorney." "So will I." "Good." The line went dead. No goodbye, no apology. Nothing remained except silence. That evening, Archer drove across town to a modest brick building near Goodale Park. Unlike the towering glass offices downtown, the law firm looked almost forgotten. A brass plaque beside the entrance read Victoria Lang, Family Law and Civil Litigation. The receptionist led Archer into a conference room lined with shelves of worn legal books. Victoria Lang entered carrying a yellow legal pad. She was in her late 40s, dressed simply with reading glasses resting on top of her head. She shook Archer's hand firmly. "I've reviewed the intake notes." Archer slid the divorce petition across the table. "So have I." Victoria read quietly for several minutes. She underlined 3 passages with a blue pen, then looked up. "Do you have a history of violence? No. Arrests? No. Protective orders? No. Substance abuse? No." She nodded. "I didn't think so." Archer removed a folder from his backpack. Inside were photographs of the vendor authorization notes from Olivia Harper, timestamps from his router logs, and the written timeline he had begun constructing. Every event, every date, every conversation. Victoria spent nearly 20 minutes reading without interruption. When she finally looked up, her expression had changed. "This isn't just divorce." "I know. You think financial misconduct is involved?" "I think something is being hidden." Victoria tapped the photograph of the vendor authorization. "This company, Northbridge Solutions. I've heard of similar structures. Shell companies." She nodded once. "Possibly." Archer remained silent. Victoria leaned back in her chair. "Listen carefully. If your wife is involved in corporate fraud, emotions will destroy your case. I understand. If you accuse her publicly without proof, you lose credibility. I won't. If you touch company systems, you could expose yourself. I know." Victoria closed the folder. "The law rewards preparation. Not anger, not revenge. Preparation." The words settled deeply in Archer's mind. Before leaving, Victoria handed him a yellow legal pad. "From now on, document everything. Every phone call, every expense, every custody exchange, every message, every unusual event. The person with the better records usually wins." Archer thanked her and stepped back into the evening sunlight. Traffic crawled along High Street while office workers hurried toward restaurants and parking garages. Everything looked ordinary. Yet he felt as though invisible currents were moving beneath the city. His phone rang again. This time it was Olivia. "I found another payment." How much? 320,000. Same shell company? No. Different shell. Same approval department. Archer closed his eyes briefly. So, the pattern continues. It gets worse. Olivia lowered her voice. I searched county property records. And there was a listing request filed yesterday. What listing? Your house. Archer stopped walking. The sounds of traffic seemed to disappear. Our house? Yes. The filing requests immediate market preparation. But we never agreed to sell. I know. According to public records, Sophia had already contacted a real estate attorney about transferring ownership during the divorce proceedings. Archer looked across the street at families eating dinner on restaurant patios. Some laughed. Some argued gently. None of them knew that a quiet maintenance supervisor standing on the sidewalk had just discovered his home might already be slipping away. Olivia spoke again. Archer, I'm here. Don't panic. I'm not. I know you aren't. And that's why you'll survive this. The call ended. Archer remained standing for another minute before walking toward his truck. The old Ford waited beneath a street lamp, paint faded and bumper scratched from years of hauling ladders and tools. Sophia had once called it embarrassing. Tonight, it felt like the most honest thing left in his life. He climbed inside and looked at the notebook Victoria had given him. On the first page, he wrote only one sentence. Facts first, feelings later. Then he started the engine and drove home to Noah. Behind him, downtown Columbus disappeared into the evening sky, while somewhere inside Hawthorne Capitol, people who believed Archer Wallace was merely a quiet maintenance supervisor continued making plans they hoped he would never understand. Saturday mornings had always belonged to Noah. For years, Archer Wallace had followed the same routine. Pancakes at 7, baseball practice at 9, a stop at the small bookstore near High Street before heading home. The routine rarely changed, and Archer believed children needed routines when the adults around them became unpredictable. That morning, however, Noah barely touched his breakfast. The pancakes sat untouched while maple syrup slowly spread across the plate. Archer noticed but said nothing. The boy would speak when he was ready. Nearly 10 minutes passed before Noah finally looked up. Dad, Archer folded the newspaper. Yeah, can I ask something? Always. Noah stared down at his fork. Are you and Mom getting divorced? The kitchen became silent. Archer had prepared for difficult conversations. He had rehearsed answers in his head. None of them felt right now that the question had finally arrived. He reached across the table and rested his hand over Noah's. Your mom and I have problems to solve. Did I do something wrong? The question hurt more than the divorce papers ever could. No, Archer answered immediately. You didn't do anything wrong. Then why doesn't Mom come home anymore? Archer searched for careful words. Sometimes adults make choices that change families. Can they change back? He looked into his son's eyes. I don't know. It was the most honest answer he could give. Noah nodded quietly. Children accepted uncertainty better than false promises. After breakfast, they drove to the baseball field. Parents filled the bleachers while coaches organized drills under bright June sunshine. Archer watched Noah laugh with teammates, and for nearly an hour the investigation disappeared from his thoughts. The world looked normal again, until Sophia arrived. Her white luxury SUV rolled into the parking lot just before practice ended. She stepped out wearing sunglasses and expensive athletic clothes that looked untouched by exercise. Several parents waved. She smiled politely. The performance appeared effortless. Noah ran toward her. Mom! She hugged him tightly. I missed you. For a moment, Archer almost believed everything could still be repaired. Then he noticed Ethan Brooks's car parked 2 rows behind hers. The executive never got out. He remained inside sunglasses, hiding his face, watching, waiting. Archer said nothing. He simply memorized the license plate. Sophia walked beside Noah toward the concession stand while Archer carried the equipment bag behind them. Their conversation seemed ordinary. School, summer vacation, favorite movies, normal family talk. Then Sophia's phone rang. She stepped away to answer. Noah remained alone beside the dugout. The boy absent-mindedly picked up his tablet from the equipment bag and began playing a simple baseball game. 5 minutes passed. Sophia still hadn't returned. Curious. Noah wandered toward the parking lot. Archer was helping another parent fold portable chairs and didn't immediately notice. Sophia stood near the edge of the lot beside a line of trees. Her back faced the field. Her voice carried through the quiet afternoon breeze. He's too trusting. Pause. No. He doesn't know everything. Another pause. We just need a little more time. Noah stopped walking. His tablet remained in his hands. The game screen had already timed out. Without realizing it, the device continued recording audio through its built-in microphone after the voice assistant activated accidentally. Sophia kept talking. He'll sign eventually. Pause. I've handled him for years. Then she laughed softly. A laugh Noah had not heard at home in months. The boy looked confused. He slowly turned around and walked back toward the baseball field without interrupting the call. Archer saw him returning. Something about Noah's expression looked different, quieter, older. The drive home felt unusually silent. Halfway there, Noah finally spoke. Mom called you trusting. Archer kept his eyes on the road. What else did she say? I don't remember. He hesitated. I think she said she'd handled you. Archer's hands tightened slightly around the steering wheel before relaxing again. What did she mean? I don't know. Noah stared out the window. I don't think she knew I was there. Archer nodded once. Neither of them spoke again until they reached home. That evening, Noah carried his tablet downstairs. Dad, I think something's wrong with this. The screen displayed a storage warning. Memory almost full. Archer connected the charger and began checking files. Most contained games and school photos. Then one unfamiliar audio file appeared. Automatically saved. Length 3 minutes 42 seconds. He pressed play. Wind, cars passing, footsteps. Then Sophia's voice. He's too trusting. The room became perfectly still. Archer listened without interruption. He heard every sentence, every pause, every laugh. The recording ended. He closed the tablet carefully, not because the words proved infidelity, because they revealed planning, calculation, preparation. He looked toward Noah, who sat quietly coloring at the dining table. The boy had no idea what he had accidentally captured. Archer walked into the garage and called Olivia Harper. She answered immediately. You sound serious. I have a recording. What kind? My son captured part of a conversation. Don't send it yet. I wasn't planning to. Keep the original file. No edits, no copies, no forwarding. Archer nodded, even though she couldn't see him. I understand. Olivia lowered her voice. I have news too. What did you find? I compared vendor signatures. And they don't match. Archer frowned. The approvals. Several appear digitally altered. She paused. If they're forged, the fraud exceeds $800,000. The number echoed through the garage. Much larger than Archer had expected. Much larger than a single executive affair. He looked towards Naru in the toolbox where every document remained locked inside. This investigation had already crossed into territory that family courts alone could never resolve. Olivia spoke again. You need to protect Noah. I will. And Archer. Yes. Someone willing to move that much money won't panic over one maintenance supervisor. They'll panic over evidence. The call ended. Archer stood alone in the garage while evening sunlight filtered through dusty windows. Inside the house, Noah laughed at a cartoon playing on television. The sound reminded Archer exactly what mattered. The marriage might already be over. The money might already be gone. But one thing remained within his control, making sure his son never became collateral damage in someone else's deception. As darkness settled over Columbus, Archer locked the garage, slipped the tablet into his backpack, and quietly added one more line to Victoria Lang's notebook. Truth often arrives by accident. The wise person simply recognizes it before everyone else does. Monday morning arrived with cloudless skies over Columbus. By 8 o'clock, Hawthorne Capital Advisors stood gleaming beneath the sunlight, its mirrored glass reflecting the movement of downtown traffic. Inside the executive conference room on the 14th floor, tension hid behind polished smiles and tailored suits. Daniel Pierce, the company's chief executive officer, sat at the head of the long walnut table. Around him were department directors, legal advisors, compliance officers, and human resources representatives. The meeting had been called unexpectedly. Officially, it concerned workplace conduct. Unofficially, everyone already knew whose name would dominate the discussion. Archer Wallace, the maintenance supervisor, the husband, the unexpected visitor. Outside the room, Archer adjusted the sleeves of his blue button-down shirt. He wore no expensive suit, no designer watch, only clean clothes and the same calm expression that had carried him through the previous 2 weeks. Beside him stood Victoria Lang carrying a leather briefcase thick with documents. She glanced toward Archer. Nervous? He shook his head. No. Good. Neither am I. The conference room doors opened. Everyone looked toward them. Sophia Wallace sat halfway down the table. She wore a navy business suit and pearl earrings projecting confidence that looked carefully rehearsed. Beside her sat Ethan Brooks. He avoided Archer's eyes. Daniel Pierce gestured politely. Mr. Wallace, thank you for coming. Archer nodded once. Victoria placed her briefcase on the table before taking her seat. No one spoke for several seconds. Finally, the company's attorney cleared his throat. We've received concerns regarding inappropriate behavior toward Miss Wallace during business hours. Sophia folded her hands neatly. My husband has struggled to accept that my career requires long hours. Her voice remained measured. He has appeared unexpectedly at my office several times. He questions my coworkers. He creates uncomfortable situations. Several executives exchanged quiet looks. Archer remained silent. Victoria wrote something on her yellow legal pad. The attorney continued. Mr. Wallace, do you wish to respond? Archer looked toward Sophia, then toward Ethan, finally toward Daniel Pierce. No. The room fell silent. The attorney blinked. No. I'd prefer to listen. Victoria almost smiled. Silence unsettled liars far more effectively than arguments. Sophia continued speaking. She described Archer as insecure, controlling, unable to understand executive responsibilities. She explained that Noah's visit had disrupted confidential meetings. Ethan supported every statement. He seemed agitated. He kept asking strange questions. I worried about staff safety. Archer listened without interruption. Victoria never looked up from her notes. When Ethan finally finished, Daniel Pierce turned toward Victoria. Miss Lang, she closed her notebook. Just a few questions. The attorney nodded. Victoria looked directly at Ethan. You stated that you were reviewing financial projections that afternoon. Correct. Were you scheduled to meet with Miss Wallace? Yes. Is that meeting reflected on the company calendar? Ethan hesitated. It was informal. So no. I suppose not. Victoria nodded once. She turned toward Sophia. You testified that the office remained locked because of confidential financial discussions. Correct? Were those discussions conducted by telephone? Yes. Victoria slid a printed screenshot across the table. The electronic calendar outside Sophia's office. Conference call, 2:00 p.m. No participants are listed, Sophia answered quickly. It was internal. Victoria asked another question. Can you identify who joined? Sophia hesitated. The room became quiet. I don't remember. Victoria simply nodded. No further questions. Daniel Pierce leaned back slightly. The company attorney looked relieved. The questioning appeared harmless. Then Victoria reached into her briefcase once more. She removed a small flash drive. I would like permission to present evidence. The room changed instantly. Daniel looked towards compliance officers before nodding. Proceed. Victoria inserted the drive into the conference room computer. The large screen illuminated. Video appeared. Timestamp, date, time, the anniversary afternoon, security camera, body camera, Archer's shirt camera. The room watched silently as Archer and Noah entered Sophia's office carrying flowers and cupcakes. No shouting, no threats, only smiles. Then Ethan appeared. Standing inside the locked office, the executives watched his expression change as Archer entered. The second coffee cup became visible. The missing wedding ring. The awkward introductions. The strange metallic knocking echoed through the conference speakers. Clank. Several people looked toward Sophia. She lowered her eyes. The recording continued. Noah asked innocent questions. Sophia redirected conversations. Ethan repeatedly shifted his position in front of the rear cabinet. The blinking red indicator light appeared briefly near the floor. Victoria paused the footage. She enlarged the image. The red light became unmistakable. One compliance officer leaned forward. What is that? Nobody answered. Victoria resumed playback. Again, the metallic sound echoed. Again, Ethan subtly blocked the cabinet. Again, Sophia hurried the family toward the exit. The video ended. Silence filled the conference room. Long, heavy. Daniel Pierce folded his hands together. He looked toward Sophia. Would you like to explain this? She spoke quietly. I don't know what you're implying, Victoria answered instead. We're implying nothing. We're observing behavior. The compliance director requested the footage replay. This time, everyone focused on the cabinet. The blinking light, the repeated sounds, the nervous glances, the hidden corner of the office. When the screen went dark again, Daniel slowly stood. He walked toward the window overlooking downtown Columbus. No one interrupted his thoughts. Finally, he turned around. Mr. Brooks. Yes. What exactly was behind that cabinet? Ethan swallowed. Storage. What kind? Office equipment. The answer sounded weak even to himself. Daniel looked toward building maintenance records displayed by facilities management. No maintenance request exists. No response. The CEO shifted his attention toward Sophia. Did you authorize any hardware installation? No. Did it? I don't know. One compliance officer raised his hand. We should inspect the office immediately. Another executive agreed. So should security. Daniel Pierce nodded once. Open it. The decision echoed through the room. No debate, no delay. The meeting dissolved into movement. Executives stood. Compliance officers gathered documents. Security personnel headed toward the elevators. Sophia remained seated. Color slowly drained from her face. Ethan stared at the conference table without speaking. Archer rose quietly beside Victoria. Neither celebrated, neither smiled. Facts did not need emotion. They only needed daylight. As everyone hurried towards the executive floor, Archer glanced once through the conference room window at the busy streets below. People walked to lunch. Traffic lights changed. The city continued unaware that a single strange noise behind an office wall was about to expose something much larger than a broken marriage. And somewhere above them, hidden behind polished wood panels, a machine continued making the same metallic sound that had started everything. The executive floor no longer sounded like an office. It sounded like a building holding its breath. Security officers stood near every elevator, while compliance managers whispered into phones and hurried between conference rooms. Employees who normally walked with confidence now gathered in small circles pretending to discuss spreadsheets while their eyes drifted toward Sophia Wallace's office. Archer Wallace remained near the back of the hallway. Victoria Lang stood beside him with her arms folded, saying very little. She understood that evidence often arrived quietly. Daniel Pierce reached the office first. His expression remained controlled, but every step carried growing urgency. Behind him came the Director of Information Technology, 2 compliance officers, company counsel, and 3 members of building security. Sophia stood several feet away. Her face had become almost expressionless. Only her hands betrayed her. They would not stop trembling. Ethan Brooks appeared even worse. His tie had loosened. His forehead glistened beneath the bright hallway lights. He looked toward the office door as though hoping someone would stop what was about to happen. No one did. Daniel unlocked the office himself. The group entered together. Archer remained outside until invited. He had no interest in wandering through another person's workplace without permission. A minute later, Daniel stepped back into the hallway. "Mr. Wallace." Archer looked up. "You noticed something that afternoon. I noticed several things. I'd like you to explain them." Victoria nodded once. "Answer only what you observed." Archer entered quietly. The office looked exactly as it had on the anniversary afternoon. The flowers Noah had brought still sat in a crystal vase. Most had already begun to wilt. The cupcake box remained unopened on a side table. Blue frosting had hardened under the plastic lid. The sight lasted only a moment before Archer's attention shifted toward the rear wall. The decorative wooden cabinet stood where it always had. Now, several technicians surrounded it. One of them pointed toward a narrow gap near the floor. Someone removed these screws recently. Another technician crouched beside the cabinet. Fresh tool marks covered the mounting brackets. Daniel frowned. "Open it." Power drills whined softly. Metal screws dropped onto the hardwood floor. The decorative panel loosened, then slowly swung outward. Everyone inside the office stopped moving. Behind the cabinet sat a steel equipment rack nearly 6 feet tall. Network switches, power supplies, cooling fans, external storage arrays, fiber cables, battery backups. Indicator lights blinked across dozens of devices. The strange metallic knocking echoed once more. Clank. Then a low grinding vibration followed. One of the backup drives struggled to spin before settling into a steady hum. The entire office remained silent. The hidden room had never been empty. It had been hiding a private server installation. The IT director stepped forward immediately. "We didn't install this." Daniel looked at him sharply. "Are you certain? I've managed this building's systems for 11 years. I've never seen this hardware." Another technician examined the rack labels. Most serial numbers had been removed. Several cables disappeared through holes drilled into the wall. Someone had built an independent network hidden inside the executive office. Archer stood quietly near the doorway. Years earlier, he would have recognized every model instantly. Even now, he noticed details others overlooked. Separate power circuits, independent cooling fans, encrypted storage modules. The system had never been intended for ordinary office work. It had been designed to operate without company oversight. Daniel turned slowly toward Sophia. "What is this?" She stared at the equipment. "I don't know." The answer sounded weak, almost frightened. Ethan stepped forward. "I've never seen any of this." No one replied. The IT director removed one storage enclosure carefully. Heat radiated from the casing. "It has been running continuously." Another technician connected diagnostic equipment. His eyebrows rose immediately. "There are multiple encrypted partitions." "Can you access them?" "Not without forensic imaging." The compliance officer stepped away to make a phone call. His voice remained low but urgent. Archer watched without speaking. He remembered the metallic sound behind the wall, the blinking red light, the repeated whispers, the missing meeting participants. Everything fit together now. The server had been hidden only a few feet from where Noah had handed his mother anniversary cupcakes. Daniel looked toward Archer. "How did you recognize something was wrong?" Archer answered simply. "The sound. The drive bearings are failing. I heard the vibration through the wall." Several technicians exchanged surprised looks. One nodded quietly. "He's right. The backup drive is close to mechanical failure." The compliance officer returned. "We've contacted outside investigators." Daniel nodded once. "No one touches anything else." Security officers sealed the office entrance. Photographs began documenting every cable and every drive. Sophia slowly lowered herself into a chair. She looked smaller than before, not defeated, only exhausted. Ethan remained standing near the windows. He avoided everyone else's eyes. Victoria leaned toward Archer. "You've said enough." He agreed. Facts rarely needed repetition. As they prepared to leave, another technician called from behind the rack. "There's more." Everyone turned. He held up a small metal lockbox bolted behind the lowest shelf. The keyhole had been covered with black tape. "What is it?" "No idea." The technician tugged gently. The box remained locked. Daniel looked toward company counsel. "No force. We wait for investigators." The hallway outside had filled with curious employees. Rumors spread faster than elevators. Some whispered about stolen money. Others spoke of espionage. Most simply stared as security blocked access to the office. Archer walked quietly toward the elevators with Victoria beside him. Neither spoke until the doors opened. Only then did Victoria break the silence. "You realize this isn't a divorce case anymore." Archer looked at the reflection of the executive floor disappearing behind closing doors. "I realized that when I heard the knocking." The elevator descended slowly. Somewhere above them, hidden behind yellow evidence tape machines, still hummed inside a wall that should have contained nothing at all. And somewhere inside one of those encrypted drives waited the truth that everyone had been trying to keep buried. The federal investigators arrived before noon. Their vehicles carried no flashing lights and no dramatic entrance. 3 dark SUVs rolled quietly into the underground parking garage beneath Hawthorne Capitol, while employees above continued pretending the workday remained ordinary. Nothing about the arrival attracted attention. That was exactly the point. Archer Wallace watched from the lobby as 2 men and 1 woman stepped from the elevator carrying black evidence cases. Their jackets displayed no agency logos, only identification badges clipped inside their suit coats. Daniel Pierce greeted them personally before leading them upstairs. Victoria Lang stood beside Archer. "They move quietly." "They usually do." Archer nodded. People imagined investigations beginning with handcuffs and shouting. Real investigations often began with silence and paperwork. The executive floor had already been sealed. Yellow evidence tape crossed the entrance to Sophia's office, while IT personnel documented every cable hard drive and server component discovered behind the decorative cabinet. The hidden equipment remained powered but untouched. No one wanted to alter digital evidence before forensic imaging. Inside a temporary conference room, investigators interviewed employees one by one. Emily Carter entered first. She emerged nearly 40 minutes later with red eyes and trembling hands. She walked past Archer without speaking. Only once did she look back. The expression on her face carried relief more than fear, as though telling the truth had finally become easier than protecting someone else's lies. The second interview lasted almost an hour. Ethan Brooks disappeared behind closed doors, accompanied by 2 investigators and company counsel. His confident posture had vanished. When he finally emerged, his collar had loosened and his forehead glistened with sweat. He avoided everyone, including Sophia. Archer noticed everything. He reacted to nothing. Victoria quietly handed him a bottle of water. "You've been here 4 hours." "I know." "You should sit." "I'm fine." She smiled faintly. "No, you're focused." "There's a difference." The hallway remained crowded with attorneys, compliance staff, and forensic technicians carrying storage drives inside anti-static bags. Every movement appeared organized, measured, professional. The hidden server installation had transformed a corporate office into an active financial crime scene. Shortly after 2 o'clock, Archer's name was called. A tall investigator extended his hand. "Miles Donovan." Archer shook it. The grip felt firm and direct. No performance, no intimidation, just procedure. The interview room contained only a small table, 2 chairs, and a digital recorder. Miles activated it. "For the record, this interview is voluntary." "I understand." "Please state your name." "Archer Wallace." The questions began simply. Occupation, address, family status. Then the conversation shifted toward the anniversary visit. Archer described every event carefully. The flowers, the cupcakes, Emily's hesitation. The locked office, the strange metallic knocking, the blinking red light. He avoided assumptions. He offered only observations. Miles listened without interruption. Occasionally, he wrote short notes. Finally, he asked, "Why didn't you confront your wife?" Archer answered without hesitation. "Evidence lasts longer than arguments." The investigator looked up, then nodded quietly. He understood. Victoria remained beside Archer throughout the interview, occasionally clarifying dates, but rarely speaking. When Archer finished describing the hidden server equipment, Miles reached into a folder. He removed several printed photographs taken only hours earlier. The images showed the concealed rack from multiple angles. Archer immediately recognized the equipment. Independent power supply, enterprise storage arrays, commercial-grade encryption modules. He pointed toward one device. "That's the source of the knocking." Miles looked surprised. "How can you tell?" "The drive assembly is misaligned. The vibration matches what I heard through the wall." Another investigator entered carrying preliminary forensic notes. He whispered something to Miles. The investigator's expression changed instantly. He thanked Archer and excused himself for several minutes. Victoria leaned closer. Something happened. Archer remained quiet. He simply waited. Nearly 15 minutes passed before Miles returned. He closed the door behind him. The forensic team recovered active transaction logs. Victoria exchanged a glance with Archer. Miles continued. They also recovered multiple encrypted financial archives. No conclusions yet, but enough to justify expanding the investigation. He slid another photograph across the table. It showed several folders recovered from the server interface. One folder title stood out. Exit Strategy Archer had seen those same words in the network metadata days earlier. He said nothing. Miles noticed. "You've heard that phrase before." Archer explained the cloud metadata recovered from his home router logs. He carefully described how encrypted uploads had occurred from inside his own house over several months. Miles wrote continuously. Do you still have those logs? Yes. Original copies? Yes. Backups? 2. Victoria smiled slightly. She had expected nothing less. The investigator leaned back. Mr. Wallace? Your documentation may become extremely important. Archer nodded once. I saved everything. When the interview concluded, Miles escorted Archer into the hallway. The executive floor looked even quieter than before. Most employees had already been sent home. Sophia remained seated alone in another conference room across the corridor. Through the glass wall, Archer could see her speaking with attorneys. She never looked toward him. He did not approach. Some distances could not be crossed by conversation, only truth. As Archer and Victoria walked toward the elevators, his phone vibrated. A message from Olivia Harper appeared. The forged signatures are confirmed. Estimated loss now exceeds $1.2 million. Archer read the message twice before placing the phone back into his pocket. The number itself mattered less than what it represented. This had never been only about infidelity, never only about divorce. It had become a story about deception built over years, hidden behind polished offices and expensive titles. The elevator doors opened. As Archer stepped inside, he looked once more toward the sealed office, where the strange metallic sound had first caught his attention. The machine had nearly failed. Its bearings had worn down. Its rhythm had changed just enough for an ordinary maintenance supervisor to notice. And because one quiet man had listened instead of reacting, an entire network of secrets was beginning to collapse. The family division of the Franklin County Courthouse stood only a few blocks from the river, its limestone walls catching the pale morning sunlight as attorneys' clerks and anxious families streamed through the entrance. Archer Wallace arrived 20 minutes early. He always did. Preparation had become a habit long before this case reached a courtroom. Victoria Lang walked beside him, carrying 2 binders thick with exhibits and timelines. Neither of them spoke much while passing through security. Words would change nothing now. Facts would. Across the lobby, Sophia Wallace appeared with her legal team. She wore a cream-colored suit and carried herself with practiced confidence, but Archer noticed the small details others missed. She repeatedly adjusted the same bracelet. Her left foot tapped against the marble floor. She never looked directly at him. Instead, she looked toward Noah. The boy stood quietly beside Archer, holding a small backpack with a baseball stitched onto the front pocket. He looked nervous. Archer rested a hand gently on his shoulder. You don't have to worry. Noah nodded, though his eyes remained fixed on the courtroom doors. When the bailiff announced the session, everyone entered. The courtroom itself felt smaller than Archer expected. Dark wood panels lined the walls. The American flag stood behind the judge's bench. Sunlight filtered through tall windows, filling the room with a calm that contrasted sharply with the tension inside it. Judge Eleanor Whitman entered precisely at 9 o'clock. Everyone stood, then sat. The proceedings began with routine matters before turning toward custody. Sophia's attorney spoke first. He described Archer as emotionally distant, overly suspicious, unable to adapt to his wife's demanding executive career. He suggested that Noah needed the stability of a financially successful parent. Archer listened without reacting. Victoria simply took notes. The judge occasionally looked toward Archer, perhaps expecting anger or interruption. She found neither. When Sophia testified, her voice remained composed. She described long work hours and professional responsibilities. She claimed Archer had become increasingly withdrawn after leaving his cybersecurity career years earlier. She implied that his investigation into her office had grown from insecurity rather than reason. Throughout the testimony, Archer never lowered his eyes. He simply watched, not with bitterness, only with quiet attention. When Victoria finally stood to cross-examine, the room became noticeably still. She approached the witness stand carrying only a yellow legal pad. No dramatic gestures, no raised voice, just questions. "Mrs. Wallace, did your husband attend Noah's school events?" "Yes." "Did he prepare Noah's meals?" "Usually." "Did he transport Noah to practices and appointments?" "Yes." "Were there ever reports of neglect?" "No." "Violence?" "No." "Substance abuse?" "No." Victoria nodded. "So your concerns appeared only after your husband visited your office?" Sophia hesitated. "I became concerned about his behavior." Victoria opened the first binder. "Behavior that included bringing flowers and cupcakes with your son." No answer. The courtroom remained silent. Victoria continued. "Mrs. Wallace, are you currently under federal investigation regarding financial activity connected to Hawthorne Capital Advisors?" Sophia's attorney immediately objected. The judge considered the question before allowing a limited response. Sophia swallowed. "The investigation is ongoing, so the answer is yes." "Yes." Victoria returned to counsel table without another question. She did not need one. The answer itself carried enough weight. The judge reviewed several reports from the court-appointed child welfare evaluator. Each described Archer in nearly identical language: calm, reliable, consistent, present. The evaluator noted Noah appeared relaxed in Archer's care and anxious whenever adult conflict escalated around him. The report recommended maintaining the child's current daily routine. Noah was never asked to testify publicly. The judge refused to place that burden upon him. Instead, the written evaluation and interviews conducted privately in chambers became part of the record. After a short recess, Victoria presented Archer's documentation: school attendance records, medical appointments, baseball schedules, homework logs, photographs. Every page demonstrated years of ordinary parenting. No speeches, no emotional appeals, just quiet consistency. Then Victoria introduced one final exhibit: the timeline Archer had built since the anniversary afternoon. Every event, every phone call, every document, every meeting, every investigation. The judge spent nearly 15 minutes reviewing it in silence. Sophia remained motionless. Her attorney whispered repeatedly, but she barely responded. The courtroom felt almost weightless while everyone waited. Finally, Judge Whitman removed her glasses. The court's responsibility is the welfare of the child. She looked toward Noah, then toward Archer, then Sophia. At this stage, stability outweighs financial status. She paused briefly. The court grants temporary primary physical custody to Mr. Archer Wallace pending final resolution of related investigations. The words settled across the room. No celebration followed. Archer simply closed his eyes for one quiet second. Relief arrived without triumph. Sophia stared forward, expressionless. Her attorney leaned toward her again, but she remained still. The hearing concluded minutes later. Families slowly exited into the courthouse corridors. Reporters waited outside after learning that Hawthorne Capital had become the subject of a federal inquiry. Camera flashes lit the front steps. Microphones appeared. Questions echoed through the air. Neither Archer nor Victoria answered any of them. They walked calmly toward the parking lot with Noah between them. The boy looked up. "Are we going home?" Archer smiled. "Yes." Before they reached the truck, loud voices erupted behind them. Several federal agents approached a black sedan parked near the curb. Ethan Brooks had just stepped from the driver's seat. The conversation lasted only seconds before agents identified themselves and asked him to remain where he was. Pedestrians stopped walking. Reporters turned instantly. Camera lenses swung toward the parking lot. Ethan's confident posture disappeared as investigators escorted him toward an unmarked vehicle for questioning. Archer watched only briefly. Then he opened the passenger door for Noah. Some stories ended with shouting. Others ended with silence. He chose silence. As the old Ford pulled away from the courthouse, Noah leaned against the window and watched the city pass by. Neither father nor son noticed the growing crowd behind them. For the first time in weeks, Archer felt something unfamiliar returning. Not victory, peace. And somewhere behind courthouse walls, more truths were still waiting to be uncovered. Autumn arrived quietly in Columbus. The maple trees outside Franklin County Courthouse had already turned shades of orange and gold by the time federal prosecutors announced their first plea agreement. News vans crowded the sidewalks before sunrise, hoping to capture another dramatic moment in the Hawthorne Capitol investigation. Archer Wallace never appeared in front of a camera. He left through side entrances whenever possible, carrying the same worn leather backpack and wearing the same plain work jacket he had owned for years. Reporters shouted his name more than once, but he kept walking with the steady pace that had carried him through every difficult season of his life. He had learned something important over the previous months. Silence was stronger than performance. Across town, another hearing ended without fanfare. Ethan Brooks entered the courthouse surrounded by attorneys and federal agents. The confident executive who once laughed at Archer's blue-collar job no longer existed. His expensive suits hung loosely across his shoulders and dark circles rested beneath tired eyes. By afternoon, local news stations confirmed what investigators had suspected for weeks. Ethan had accepted a plea agreement. In exchange for cooperation, he admitted helping create shell vendors that moved company funds into hidden accounts. Thousands of pages of financial records, encrypted storage devices, and email archives supported every statement. More importantly, he identified who had approved the transfers. Sophia Wallace. Archer read the headlines only once before folding the newspaper. He did not feel satisfaction. Only exhaustion. The truth had finally become public, but the cost had reached every corner of his family. Noah sat across the kitchen table, finishing homework. "Dad?" Archer looked up. "Yeah?" People at school asked about Mom again. "What did you tell them?" The boy shrugged. "I said she's still my mom." Archer nodded quietly. That was enough. Noah returned to his math worksheet. Children often understood compassion better than adults. Several weeks later, Hawthorne Capitol released a public statement announcing leadership changes, internal audits, and a complete restructuring of its compliance department. Daniel Pierce resigned as chief executive. Several senior managers followed. Outside consultants replaced the old leadership team while federal accountants continued reviewing years of transactions. The story dominated Ohio business news for nearly a month. Then another headline replaced it. Life moved on. Archer did too. He sold the family house before winter. Too many memories lived inside its walls. The kitchen where Noah learned to make pancakes. The living room where anniversary flowers had once stood forgotten. The garage where evidence had been hidden inside an old toolbox. Leaving was painful. Staying would have been worse. Father and son moved into a smaller home near Clintonville, close to Noah's new school and baseball field. The neighborhood was quieter. Children rode bicycles until sunset. Neighbors waved from porches. Nobody cared about television interviews or financial scandals. They simply welcomed another family. The first Saturday, after moving, Archer unpacked boxes in the garage while Noah explored the backyard. Among old photographs and winter coats sat a gray storage bin untouched for years. Inside rested Archer's cybersecurity notebooks from another lifetime. Network diagrams, training manuals, investigation notes. For several minutes he simply stared at them. Then an idea formed. A month later, Archer volunteered to teach weekend cybersecurity workshops at the local community center. Teenagers filled folding chairs while he explained online scams, password safety, and digital evidence. He never mentioned Hawthorne Capital. He never mentioned Sophia. He simply taught. The quiet maintenance supervisor became a quiet teacher. Noah often sat in the back row doing homework until class ended. Watching his father speak with calm confidence seemed to heal something inside him. One snowy afternoon, as father and son returned home carrying groceries, they found an envelope tucked beneath the front door. No return address. Only Archer's name written neatly across the front. He recognized the handwriting immediately. Sophia. He carried the letter inside without opening it. Dinner came first, homework next. Only after Noah had fallen asleep did Archer sit alone beside the living room lamp and unfold the pages. The letter was shorter than he expected. No excuses, no attempt to rewrite history. Sophia admitted she had mistaken quietness for weakness and ambition for wisdom. She wrote that every shortcut had seemed temporary until there was no honest way back. Most of all, she apologized for the pain Noah would carry because of choices that should have belonged only to adults. Archer finished reading just before midnight. He folded the pages carefully and placed them back into the envelope. No anger remained, but forgiveness was slower than regret. Outside, fresh snow covered the streetlights and sidewalks in silence. Archer walked to Noah's bedroom. The boy slept peacefully, one hand hanging over the side of the bed, a baseball glove resting on the floor nearby. Archer pulled the blanket higher across his son's shoulders. Then he stood there for another minute. The investigation had uncovered hidden servers, false companies missing money, and broken promises. Yet the only victory that truly mattered slept quietly in that room. He returned downstairs and locked Sophia's letter inside a wooden desk drawer. Not to forget it, not to preserve bitterness, only to remind himself that truth always arrived eventually, even when buried beneath walls, paperwork, and years of deception. Before turning off the porch light, Archer looked across the quiet neighborhood. Snowflakes drifted beneath the street lamps. Somewhere far away, court proceedings would continue for months. Sentences would be handed down. Appeals would be filed. Lawyers would argue over numbers and signatures. But inside this small house, peace had begun returning one ordinary evening at a time. As Archer closed the front door, he wondered whether healing meant remembering everything or finally choosing not to let the past speak louder than tomorrow. Winter slowly surrendered to spring. By the time the last federal hearings concluded, the newspapers had already moved on to newer scandals, newer headlines, and newer faces. The story that once dominated television broadcasts now occupied only a few inches on the back pages of local papers. Archer Wallace did not mind. He had never wanted attention. He had only wanted the truth. One quiet Saturday morning, sunlight filtered through the kitchen window of the small Clintonville house, while Noah carefully flipped pancakes in a cast-iron skillet. The boy had grown taller over the past year. His voice had deepened slightly. The sadness that once lingered behind his smile had softened into something steadier. "You think they're done?" Noah asked, while watching a pancake bubble at the edges. Archer poured coffee into 2 mugs before answering. "I think they're ready." Noah laughed. "I meant the court." Archer smiled for the first time that morning. "I know." The kitchen filled with the smell of butter and maple syrup. Outside, neighbors walked dogs along the sidewalk while children rode bicycles through puddles left by overnight rain. Life had become ordinary again. Archer appreciated ordinary more than ever. After breakfast, they drove to Franklin County Family Court one final time. The hearing lasted less than 20 minutes. Most legal issues had already been settled through earlier agreements and federal proceedings. The judge reviewed the remaining custody documents before signing the final order. Primary custody would remain with Archer. Sophia would retain supervised visitation until completing the conditions ordered by the court. No speeches followed. No dramatic arguments. Only signatures. Paperwork. Quiet finality. As they left the courthouse, Noah slipped his hand into Archer's. The gesture surprised him. The boy had not done that in years. They walked together toward the parking lot, where the old Ford F-150 still waited beneath the same maple trees that had watched so many difficult days. Before climbing inside, Noah stopped. "Dad." "Yeah, did we win?" Archer looked across the courthouse lawn where lawyers hurried towards afternoon hearings. For several seconds he considered the question. Finally he answered. "I don't think families win. They heal." Noah thought about that while fastening his seatbelt. The truck rolled slowly through downtown Columbus before stopping outside a small bakery on High Street. The owner recognized them immediately. "You two are back." Archer nodded. "We are." Noah pointed toward a display case. "The chocolate ones. The ones with blue frosting." The baker smiled. "I remember." A few minutes later, father and son carried a fresh box of cupcakes to a nearby park overlooking the Scioto River. They sat on a wooden bench while ducks drifted across calm water. No cameras followed them. No reporters asked questions. Only wind moved gently through the trees. Noah opened the box. "You know what's funny?" "What?" The first cupcakes made everybody sad. Archer picked one up carefully. "And these? They make me hungry." Both of them laughed. It felt natural. The kind of laughter that arrives only after surviving difficult seasons. Later that afternoon, they returned home. Mail waited inside the front door. Among advertisements and utility bills rested one familiar envelope. The handwriting belonged to Sophia. Archer carried it into the living room. He opened it slowly. The letter contained only a single page. She wrote that prison programs had given her more quiet than success ever had. She admitted spending years chasing status while overlooking the people who had loved her without conditions. She thanked Archer for protecting Noah from bitterness. She hoped one day her son would remember more than her mistakes. There was no request for forgiveness, only gratitude. Archer folded the page carefully. Then he placed it inside the same wooden drawer where the previous letter remained. Some memories deserved preservation. Others deserved distance. He walked upstairs and found Noah assembling a model airplane at his desk. The boy looked up. "Everything okay?" Archer nodded. "It is now." That evening, they carried folding chairs into the backyard and watched the sunset color the clouds above Columbus. The old Ford sat quietly in the driveway. The neighborhood children chased fireflies across nearby lawns. Someone grilled hamburgers 2 houses away. A radio played softly in the distance. Nothing extraordinary happened, and that ordinary evening felt more valuable than every expensive office executive title or hidden fortune that had nearly destroyed their family. Darkness settled slowly across the street. Noah leaned against his father. "Dad." "Yeah, quiet people don't lose, do they?" Archer looked toward the stars beginning to appear above the rooftops. His answer came softly. "Prepared people survive." Noah smiled. The porch light clicked on automatically behind them. Archer reached over and switched it off. The moon provided enough light. For the first time in a very long while, neither father nor son felt the need to fear what might be hiding behind a closed door. The night was quiet, and this time quiet meant peace. Life has a quiet way of revealing the truth. Sometimes betrayal doesn't arrive with loud arguments or dramatic confessions. It hides behind ordinary days, familiar smiles, and closed doors. But no lie can outrun patience forever. Archer's story reminds us that strength is not measured by how loudly we react, but by how wisely we respond. A calm heart, a clear mind, and respect for the truth can overcome deception that money, power, or appearances try to protect. In the end, real victory was never about exposing others. It was about protecting the people he loved and refusing to let bitterness define his future. Perhaps all of us will face moments when life feels unfair, when trust is broken, or when silence seems mistaken for weakness. Yet, those moments often become the foundation of our greatest growth. The people who remain kind without becoming naive, patient without giving up, and honest without seeking revenge are often the ones who find peace in the end. If this story touched your heart, share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever discovered that patience and truth were stronger than anger? I'd love to hear your experience and your perspective. And if you enjoy meaningful stories that explore family justice and the quiet strength of ordinary people, don't forget to subscribe and join us again. Tomorrow's story may be the one that stays with you long after the screen goes dark.